city of Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love. In Pennsylvania, this city is known for the Constitution, Benjamin Franklin, cheesesteaks, and a whole lot more. But the ancient city of Philadelphia was known for something a whole lot different. It was not an easy place to live or work, and it was especially difficult for the Christians who lived there. So, stick around as we explore this letter to the church in Philadelphia. Welcome to LifeBridge Online. Hey, just a little announcement before we begin today. As many of you know, my wife Jendi and I are expecting our first child soon, and we are very excited. In preparation for that, though, we want to inform you of some changes that are going to be happening. Now, our plan is that we would finish this series next Sunday. Then, starting on Sunday, February 28th, we will begin a new series in Proverbs. Sean Blackston and Kevin Martins have a great series planned for all of us. However, it is important that you listen to what I'm about to say next, because if you miss it, you are going to miss this series. Because starting the Sunday, the February the 28th, we will be moving our messages to Zoom. We will begin at the same time, and you can find all the information that you need to connect on our webpage and in our weekly emails that we send out. Now, this is our plan. However, baby Korpi may decide to change all of our plans and arrive earlier. And if that happens, you need to look for an email communication from us so that you don't miss the start of this great series. Tuesday night prayer group and Wednesday night Bible study schedule will remain the same. The leadership team has done a great job of leading us through our midweek meetings and will continue to do so in the upcoming weeks. I am so thankful and grateful to you and to our leadership team for allowing me to step away during this time in our lives. It really is an honor to be your pastor, and I thank you for understanding and having patience with me during this time. All right? So, are we all clear? So let me begin by asking you this question. What does it mean to be from Philadelphia? What does it mean to be from Philly? The word Philadelphia means brotherly love. The city got its name because of two loyal brothers, Aminus and Attalus II. And for Jendi and I, when we return to see family and friends, we go to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. That's where Jendi grew up. That's where she spent most of her life, all of her life actually. It's the city of brotherly love. And so when you ask what it means to be from Philadelphia, what does it mean to be from Philly? What do you think of? What do you know about Philadelphia? To be from Philadelphia, it means cheesesteaks. A cheesesteak is thin cut steak, and it's put on a large roll, and there's onions and cheese that they call whiz poured on top of it. And you can order it with whiz or without whiz. To be from Philadelphia, you know all about Rocky Balboa. It means you have run up the iconic art museum steps and you've raised your arms like a champion, just like Sylvester Stallone did in the movie. To be from Philadelphia, it means you are passionate about Philly sports. What does it mean to be from Philadelphia? It's a place where the United States Constitution and the Declaration of Independence were signed. There's a rich history of American freedom there in the city. However, what does it mean to be from the ancient city of Philadelphia? The ancient city of Philadelphia was located in today's modern day Turkey. Today, it's the city of Al-Shashir. Now, what does it mean to be from the ancient city of Philadelphia? Unfortunately, it meant that your life was insecure and uncertain. And a lot of it has to do with because in 17 AD, there was a massive earthquake. It demolished the city. I mean, it just wiped it and wrecked it. And the reason why this city became such a place of insecurity and uncertainty was because of what continued to happen afterwards. Aftershocks and tremors were a major part of life after this earthquake. The earthquake was so severe that it made it almost impossible to rebuild. And this didn't just go on for a couple days after the earthquake. This went on for years and years and years after the initial earthquake. And so as a result, many people moved from the center of the city out to the countryside. So, what does it mean to be from the ancient city of Philadelphia? It means insecurity and uncertainty. And after this earthquake, there was a time where the city was called Nero Caesarea. And the city did this to honor Caesar Tiberius. Caesar Tiberius came in and gave them a tax break after the earthquake in order so that the city could rebuild. But after Tiberius dies, they changed their name back to Philadelphia. But then another earthquake happens, another aftershock, and it destroys the city. And yet again, they receive funds in order to rebuild the city. And in honor of the emperor who gives them these funds, they renamed the city Flavia, after another Roman emperor's wife. But again, after this emperor dies, they renamed the city Philadelphia all over again. So, what city do you live in? Well, I live in Philadelphia, but now it's called Nero Caesarea. Now it's called Flavia. I'm confused, never mind. He died, now we're back to being called Philadelphia. So, this is what it means to be from the ancient city of Philadelphia. It's uncertain and there's a lot of insecurity. To be from the ancient city of Philadelphia, it was known for its wine because the area had rich volcanic soil, and it created a unique place to grow grapes for wine. Yet it meant insecurity and uncertainty. Then in 92 AD, another Roman emperor came into the city and demanded that half of the vineyards be cut down or burned and replaced with grain fields. And unfortunately, grain did not grow in the soil as well as the grapes did. And as a result, many suffered economically. To be from the ancient city of Philadelphia, it meant that you lived in the midst of insecurity and uncertainty. And this is before you became a Christian. Because once you became a Christian, you experienced even more insecurity and more uncertainty. As a Christian, you suffered. You were hated by others. You were even hated by your family. Everything about your trade or your business was made more difficult just by being a Christian. You were persecuted, you were ignored, you were mistreated because you were a Christian. And because during this time Caesar was considered a god, every citizen had to go to the temple and offer a sacrifice to Caesar. And they would have to say, Caesar is Lord. This showed your loyalty, but also your allegiance to Rome. However, as a Jew, you were exempt from going to worship Caesar. However, the Jews in the Jewish synagogue did not see the Christians like them. And instead, they excommunicated, they pushed the Christians out from their church, out from their group of believers, and shut the door on them. And as a Christian, this was a problem. If you weren't going to go to the Jewish synagogue, you had to go to the temple of Caesar and worship Caesar. As a Christian, you knew that Caesar was not God. You knew who God really was. And instead of saying Caesar is Lord, you would say Jesus is Lord. And this created many, many problems for the Christians in Philadelphia. To be a Christian in ancient Philadelphia was not just a small thing. It became a political thing. It became a financial thing. Being a Christian determined if your business would survive or not. It was a patriotic thing. It was considered treason if you didn't go to the synagogue to offer a sacrifice to Caesar, or if not, you were exempt by the synagogue. So if you live in ancient city of Philadelphia, it already means insecurity and uncertainty. But as a follower of Jesus, it goes from already bad to even worse. The ancient city of Philadelphia is similar to the church in Smyrna, the persecuted church. And we looked at this church week 2 of this series. As you read this letter to the church, you see that this church is also suffering. Jesus tells them in verse 8, I know all the things you do. You have little strength, yet you obeyed my word and did not deny me. Not only do we see that they were suffering here, but we read how they were suffering. You have little strength, Jesus says. And that tells us that they were at a breaking point. They were worn out. I know all the things you do, Jesus says. I know that you are suffering. I know that you've been rejected. I know how tired you are. Here we see that this church was not just suffering, but they were suffering faithfully. And there's a difference in this type of suffering. There's a difference in their response to suffering. Not everyone who suffers well. There's a response to suffering that either pulls people's hearts closer to God, and as a result, their faith grows. But then there's another response to suffering, where people push God away, and as a result, their faith dies. If you remember back in May, we did a series called The Land Between. We traveled with the Israelites as they left Egypt and wandered through the desert before they arrived in the Promised Land. The land between served as a place for transformational growth. And in that series, we said that the land between is a place where faith grows. It's a place that faith goes, or it's a place that faith goes to die. And the truth is, we get to choose. We get to choose whether it grows or whether it dies. And for the Israelites, their suffering caused them to push God away. And we saw their faith die. And as a result, we saw discipline, discouragement, bitterness, and distaste for God. That was a choice that they made. And we have the same choice. Will we let suffering grow our faith and draw us closer to God? Or will we let suffering in our life cause us to push God away and let our faith slowly die? I was recently chatting with a friend who I had not seen in a long time. And he's really been through a tough season of life. He lost his job, he dumped his girlfriend and then got a new job, but he's in a new relationship, but he doesn't like that relationship. It's not fulfilling. And he was actively involved in the church, but now he just can't find a church that he likes. And as you talk with him, you discover his personal suffering has caused him to push God away. And you hear in his words that his faith is slowly dying. When it comes to suffering, the church in Philadelphia, they suffered well. We read their suffering moved them to a place where their faith grew. And even after all the insecurity and all the uncertainty, with what little strength they had left, they continued to obey. And as a result, this church receives no condemnation, no correction, just encouragement. Out of all of the other cities in Revelations, we know the least about this church in Philadelphia because there simply is not a lot to find. There's no archaeological findings in this city because of all of the earthquakes. But what we do know is this church was not just suffering, they were suffering well. And don't we want this same attitude in our lives? When suffering occurs in our lives, we want to suffer well. We want to be our best even when life is at its worst. When we feel abandoned, when we feel crushed or rejected, we have a choice in how we will respond. Will you choose to suffer well? Or will you let your suffering push God away and let your faith die? Because the truth is we will all suffer. Some of us will suffer more, some of us less. That's just the broken world that you and I live in. So the question is, will you continue to obey and stay faithful? Or will you push God away and let your faith die? And I wonder how Jesus is going to encourage this small group of Christians in this church. I wonder what Jesus is going to say to them. I wonder how he's going to reward them. I wonder what he's going to say to encourage them. And I wonder that for you as well. Those of you that are going through a period of struggles in your life right now, I wonder what Jesus would say to you. When you find yourself in a season that has you crushed, rejected, or suffering, what does Jesus have to say to you? So, I hope you will receive these words to the Church of Philadelphia into your own life. Now, as we read through this letter, what you're going to see is that Jesus is going to give them three images. The first is an open door. The second is an image of a crown. And the third is an image of a pillar. So let's look at the first image of the open door. This is what Jesus writes to the church in Philadelphia. Revelation chapter 3, verse 7. Write this letter to the angel of the church in Philadelphia. This is the message from the one who is holy and true, the one who has the key of David. What he opens, no one can close. And what he closes, no one can open. I know all the things you do, and I have opened a door for you that no one can close. Here you have a group of people who door after door has been slammed in their face. They used to be part of this community of believers, but they had then been rejected. They'd been turned away. And in the midst of a time of suffering. And Jesus tells this church in Philadelphia, my door is open. You are welcome here. You are home with me. And what I open, no one can close. Others may push you out, but I welcome you home. And think about how the people hearing these words must have felt. When they heard these words after doors slammed in their face, and Jesus tells them, I have an open door for you. They're living in a world of insecurity and uncertainty. They've been rejected and turned away. And Jesus tells them, come home to me. I'm here. You are welcome here with me. And I wonder how many of you have had doors closed in your life. The door of marriage may be seemed closed to some of you. The door of employment in that company just got slammed in my face. To some of us, the door of children is closed. What doors have been closed to you? To some of us, the door of good health is closed right now. The door of financial security, some of us wonder if we're even on the right street. And what door has been closed to you? And Jesus says, if you feel insecure and uncertain, if you have a door closed to you, come to me. My door is open, Jesus says. You are welcome home with me. This is the first image Jesus gives. It's an open door. The second image Jesus gives to the church is the image of a crown. We read in verse 11, I am coming soon. Hold on to what you have so that no one can take away your crown. Jesus tells this church that I am coming soon. So hold on. Now, when we think of a crown, we usually think of that shiny, expensive, ornate item that we put on top of our head. And this proves that you and I, that someone is royalty. But just like in the church of Smyrna in Revelations 2, Jesus is referring to an athletic crown here. If an athlete won first place, you received an olive wreath that would be placed on your head. And this showed your endurance, your perseverance, your hard work, and your persistent attitude. Jesus is using an athletic image to encourage a suffering church. In fact, he tells them in verse 10, because you have obeyed my command to persevere, I will protect you from the great time of testing that will come upon the whole world to test those who belong to this world. He says, for you, those of you that have been faithful, those of you that have pushed through the trials and kept the faith, I will reward you. And I will reward you with a crown. And this crown, no one can take away. This crown promises perfection. This crown promises eternal life. Jesus encourages this church to keep going because his reward is far greater than what the world has to offer. Because his reward for suffering is far greater than the pleasures of the world. Jesus tells this church to hold on, keep going, persevere. And what is interesting here, out of all the letters to the church in Revelations, Smyrna and Philadelphia are the only ones who do not receive correction. They are the only churches that receive nothing but encouragement and praise. Here to the church in Philadelphia, there is only one command, and that is to hold on to what you have, to hold on to it, to hang in there, to persevere. Each of us are facing situations of insecurity and uncertainty with this pandemic right now. We are all in the same storm. However, not all of us are in the same boat. We each have unique struggles that we are facing. It could be employment. It could be our physical health. It may be a relational struggle. It may be financial or mental. We are all facing some kind of suffering in this world. But can I encourage you right now? Hang in there. Hold on. Don't let your suffering push you to a place where your faith dries up and dies. Let your suffering push you to a place where it draws you closer to God and your faith, you experience transformational growth. So hold on, persevere. God has a crown for you. This is the first image Jesus gives. It's an open door. The second image Jesus gives the church is a crown. And the third image is a pillar. Verse 12, all who are victorious will become pillars in the temple of my God. And they will never have to leave it. Now, to you and I, we may read that and we think, okay, I'm here, I'm suffering, I'm facing extreme insecurity and uncertainty in my life. And Jesus, you just told me that you're going to make me into a pillar? I mean, how is that helpful? But I believe this imagery has a profound impact on the people in the church of Philadelphia. Because earthquake after earthquake, and with years of rebuilding, the only thing left standing were the temple pillars. Pillars were made to withstand earthquakes. They were engineered to absorb shock. When an earthquake hit your city, many times the only thing left standing were the temple pillars, because the temple pillars were built to last. If you feel insecure and uncertain, Jesus says, I will make you into something certain and secure. I will make you like a pillar in the temple of God. But it doesn't stop there. Jesus goes on to say that he is going to write something on these pillars, the pillars that you and I are. Verse 12, and I will write on them the name of my God, and they will be citizens in the city of my God, the new Jerusalem that comes down from heaven from my God. And I will also write on them my new name. Jesus tells them that he's going to write three things on these pillars, the pillars that you and I are. The first is the name of my God. The second is the name of the new city. And the third is our new name. And we could spend a lot of time trying to figure out what exactly each of these things mean. But I believe we would be missing the point of what Jesus is trying to communicate here. The important thing that he is trying to tell the church, the important thing that he's trying to tell you and me as believers, that what he's writing on these pillars, that he is writing on the pillars, that he's writing on you and me, that you and I are going to be marked by him. We're going to be chiseled by him. And there will be no mistake of whose you are and who you belong to. This symbolism means a permanent place in heaven for believers who faithfully suffer and who suffer well. And everyone will know it. Now, another interesting fact about this small, persevering church in Philadelphia is that they lasted for another 1,200 years. In fact, the city of Philadelphia would be known as the gateway to the east because trade routes went right through this city and spread out all over the east into Asia. And this small church would be known for planting churches all the way over in India. This small church, with what little strength they had, they held on to the words of Jesus, and it had a tremendous impact. In fact, it had a global impact. Imagine the impact that we could have as a church if we were to listen to what the Spirit is saying. Verse 13, anyone with ears to hear must listen to the Spirit and understand what He is saying to the churches. I really believe that this church lasted another 1,200 years because they listened to the Spirit. For some of you right now, you are going through a season of suffering. Some of us, doors have been closed in our face. Doors have been closed all in our life. And as a result, you feel crushed. You feel rejected. And you want to act like you're strong, that you got this. I don't need prayer. I don't need your help because I'm good. I'm strong. But the reality is, deep down inside, you are not good. You are crumbling. You're falling apart. For some of us, you need to receive the words that Jesus is saying to you and be honest with yourself and be honest with God. God invites us to be honest with Him. He tells us to be authentic with Him because He knows honesty brings healing and growth into our lives. And He's not scared of what you're going to tell Him because He already knows. So will you be honest? But the greater question is, will this time be an opportunity for transformational growth in your life? Or will it be a time in your life where your faith dries up and dies? It's a choice, and you get to choose. Receive the words of Jesus. My door is open. Hold on. Keep going, because your suffering, even if your suffering has brought you to a breaking point and you have little bit of strength left, just like the church in Philadelphia, your faith can transform the world. So hold on, persevere. Father God, I thank you for this church. I thank you for the words of encouragement that you give to this church. And God, I pray for those of us that are hurting, that are suffering, that have gone through life with so many doors maybe closed in our life. God, I pray that we would hold on to you, that we would run into your door and knowing full well that you accept us, that you welcome us into your house and into your arms. God, I thank you for the imagery of the door and the crown and the pillar. God, may we live life in light of these images. May we stand strong. May we be courageous, knowing that you will give us our reward, and that is far greater than anything that we can experience in this world. And I pray all these things in your name. Amen. Hey guys, we'll see you in the church lobby.